Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. A few things. Next week, over the weekend, we're going to make some changes to the studio, and hopefully everything will be sounding and looking better next week. Just so you all know. I know there are some weird continuity issues with me looking at Dave and the way things are set up, and we're hoping to resolve all of this over the weekend. And I think we'll be able to do so if Dave actually takes my advice instead of thinking that he knows how to better set up video setups than I do. Tisk, Dave.
Thank you.
I do know what I'm talking about, believe it or not. Dave just doesn't want to move his lights, and I'm telling him we can move the lights, and it's fine. But, all right.
Thank you.
Moving on. I have this case about seizures. Not the kind you might have when you are staring at a strobe light, or when you catch Dave on a really bad hair day, and your body's natural reaction is just to have a seizure.
You're right.
I'm talking about what police are seizing and what U.S. attorneys are seizing in I guess what you could call criminal cases, sometimes not really technically criminal cases.
Sure.
But police civil asset forfeitures have exceeded burglaries for 2014. So what does that mean? That means the amount of things, the total dollar amount of things being stolen is less than what police are supposedly recovering, right? Which may sound strange to you, and it should, because police are basically and attorneys are basically robbing people. So I guess between 1989 and 2010, the estimated dollar amount in asset forfeiture cases is about $12.6 billion. The growth rate during that time averaged 19.4% annually. In 2010 alone, the value of assets seized grew by 52.8% from 2009. That's pretty substantial.
Substantial is an understatement, yeah. And this is, sometimes it's the libertarians who make an issue of civil asset forfeitures and eminent domain and all of these types of things, to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger. But this should be a concern to everybody, because it also connects to something we've discussed, Lewis, which is police using drug seizures and related seizures of other stuff at drug raids, cars, cash, computers, etc., to fund the war on drugs itself. So this connects to a lot of big issues that we should all care about, not just libertarians or who knows who else.
Yeah. And so, a lot of people don't realize that's happening. Police go to a drug raid, and instead of seizing the drugs, they seize your computer and your tablet too. Okay, well, maybe there is some important information on there that they need to get to.
Got to review it.
They might also seize your car. Maybe not so important. They might also seize your stereo. And there's a good chance that they will seize all cash on the premises.
Sure. So it's all blood money, drug money, whatever.
Blood, drugs, whatever. Incredible stuff. And if you are someone who has fallen victim to police seizures, seizure is just a funny word. Is that ridiculous? I don't know. I just think it's a funny word. Let us know about that. Moving on. Dave, it's happening again. Americans are threatening to move to Canada.
Of course.
Why are they threatening to move to Canada? Because the U.S. is letting in Syrian refugees. So,
do they understand the insanity of this? Do they get this, the utter hypocrisy of saying, I really don't like that my country has a policy of letting people in, so I expect a different country to let me in there because I don't like my country's politics. I don't like refugee policy in the U.S. I want to be taken in as a refugee in Canada.
I don't think these people understand much. So what they don't understand, of course, is that they will be refugees themselves. And that
it's also really difficult to move to Canada.
Yeah, you can't just move to Canada. You might be an illegal alien if you're planning on doing what they're doing. And Canada is letting in more Syrian refugees than we are. There's that. as well.
Just a few inconvenient facts getting in the way of a really good xenophobic nationalist sort of panic.
Let's be honest here, though. Everyone says they're going to move somewhere because of something. No one moves anywhere. Right?
Our good friend Bill Scher, I think it was his first book anyway, years ago, was Wait, Don't Move to Canada, after George W. Bush was elected. And he argued that, hey, there's still good stuff here in the U.S. and not that many people are really going to do it. And here's how we can improve. I've never met anyone who has left I guess I wouldn't necessarily have met anyone. I've never heard of really specific stories of any mass migration out of the U.S. as a result of a particular elected official being placed into power.
Yeah. Unless you want to talk about, it's never actually happened, but of course, had Texas successfully seceded from the nation because Barack Obama became president, well, then maybe that kind of would have counted. But
sure.
Here are some tweets, some quotes from the interweb tubes about this. That's it. I'm moving to Canada. At Barack Obama, you are, what can I say, an idiot for bringing in these refugees. There's one from Kara Harvey. And here's another one. If we take in these French refugees, I'm moving to Canada. I quit. French refugees. Okay. And there's a few more here. If our country allows in Syrian refugees, I'm moving to Canada. Moving to Canada if Minnesota lets the refugees in. If they let refugees in Arizona, they better plan on building like 50 moats around Palo Verde, or I'm moving to Canada.
Yes, where I'm sure they build moats to keep the immigrants away from you. I'm sure that would be better in Canada.
It's no one's actually going to move to Canada anyway. But
I thought these patriots hated Canada.
Well, I don't know. Of course, we used to hear about people wanting to move to Canada because of Obamacare.
Right.
And, of course, not realizing that the healthcare system in Canada is a billion times more liberal than Obamacare. But amazing stuff. If you know anyone who is saying things like this, talk to us about it. Tell us this person is probably not your friend, maybe just an acquaintance or a coworker or something like that. Anyway, moving on.
Hopefully it's not your spouse.
Yeah. More TSA failure. And this is really not so much a TSA failure, but overall government failure. Because what we have here is a situation where TSA has failed to identify 73 airport employees that have links to terrorism. Employees that are on lists, whatever that means.
So it's been a pretty bad couple months for the TSA. We had 19 out of 20 test banned items in a test operation get through. 95% success rate at getting banned items through. Yesterday, we had a story on the show about a guy who accidentally brought a gun onto the plane. Accidentally in the sense that he had forgotten it was there. TSA didn't notice. He got to his destination. He had flown with a gun. And then now TSA has not identified airport employees that have links to terrorism.
Yes. And so, well, like I said, this isn't completely the fault of the TSA. These people, I guess the majority of them employed by airline companies, airport vendors, other employers, those types of things. I guess that the TSA is not authorized to receive all terrorism-related information under current interagency information transfer policies.
Also not surprising. So the TSA has been very incompetent in a lot of areas, but we've also talked about this horrible interagency problem of different intelligence and security agencies not playing in the same sandbox very nicely is what it essentially comes down to. And we've been told by people we've interviewed, there's this culture of not really wanting to share. The CIA wants to get info from the FBI, but why do they want to give up info? And I don't know. They want to keep the info. They want the information. And it seems that this interagency communication problem is continuing.
Yeah. And why don't they want to give out the information? Because perhaps it's more about funding or getting credit for something than it is about keeping Americans safe.
Justifying their own existence.
Yep, justifying their own existence. I mean, how many agencies are there dealing, national security agencies? You've got the TSA, you've got the NSA, you've got the CIA, you've got the FBI.
Customs and Border Patrol. You've got the Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
You have immigrations and customs and I mean, there's just so many. There's so many of these agencies.
Yeah. Can we include the DEA?
Absolutely.
ATF?
Why not?
Okay, that's 9.
WWE. I mean, include them all.
Maybe we're talking, assuming we're forgetting about a few of the smaller ones. You could be talking 12 agencies here.
Oh, I would assume it's way more, yeah.
Yeah, you think so? All right. And agencies that have a lot of trouble communicating with each other, agencies who might not want to communicate with each other.
Right.
What is the fucking point? It's incredible. It's incredible. And, there's really, I don't know what happened with these individuals. I mean, maybe since this was discovered, they were fired. Maybe they weren't. I don't have much information on that. Maybe they're just placed on a watch list. I'm going to assume that some of these employees have been working for this airline or vendor, whatever, for a while.
I would assume they're not all brand new, yeah.
And have not committed any terrorist acts. Of course, just because you're on one of these lists does not mean that you actually have any links to terrorism at all.
Correct.
It could just be that at some point in your life you might have searched for the wrong thing on the internet and your name was put on a list.
I feel both sides of this thing, because when we did the story on Monday or Tuesday, 2,000 suspected terrorists were allowed to legally buy guns. Some people react and they say, 2,000 people who have never been convicted of any crime were allowed to buy guns. That makes perfect sense. But if the I know that we've been very bad at building the suspected terrorists. Like the late great Senator Ted Kennedy was on the no-fly list for a while. If we are to assume we are good at maintaining these lists, what good is the list if it has no consequences, right? And we could have the debate over, well, if you haven't been convicted of any crime, you shouldn't lose any rights. And I agree with that. At the same time, what's the point of the list? I guess just to keep an eye on more people and then be able to more quickly intercept them if they're about to commit a crime. I don't know. There's probably a big discussion to be had there.
Yeah. Great stuff happening here. That's it, really. TSA. Yeah, I guess not technically their fault here, but what can you do? Dave, is there anything I'm missing here? Anything to add?
Nothing else I'm aware of.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.